welcome to Lovin' Life's Journey. I'm Chantel. Thank you so much for tuning in. In my last few DIY videos, the projects I have done have been a little bit more time consuming and a little bit more involved. So in today's video, instead, I have some easy Dollar Tree Farmhouse Christmas DIYs for you. So let's jump in and get started. For this first project, I will be using this wood peace sign from Dollar Tree. I'll also be using this wood sign that I had on hand, but you can pick up something very similar at Dollar Tree. And I'm going to be using some of this eucalyptus that I picked up at Walmart, as well as some of this black and white buffalo check ribbon from Dollar Tree. And I'll be adding some of this green and white berry garland you can pick up at Dollar Tree as well. I'm going to start by snipping off the jute hanger that is on the sign as close to the staples as I can. And then I'm going to use some white or ivory colored chalk paint, and I'm going to paint the entire sign except for the tree in the middle. As you can see here, I took a pencil and I just kind of outlined the shape of the tree so that I had an idea of where to paint my letters, because I'm going to paint the tree a different color. And I did end up going over this with a couple of coats of paint. Now, because I want more of a farmhouse look, I'm going to use more of a sage green. This one is actually called Wedgwood Green from Delta, but any kind of sagey green color will give it more of a farmhouse look instead of using a Christmassy green. And I am leaving the star unpainted because I'm going to go back and paint it with the ivory color as well. Once my paint's dry, I'm going to go back with some ivory chalk paint and kind of a older worn brush and put just a little bit of paint on it and dry brush over that tree just to give it a little bit of a worn look. Then I'm going to dry brush on the star and the rest of the peace word with a little bit of black chalk paint, and I'm doing this really lightly because I want it to be really subtle, but you can do this as much as you want. I always say start out with a little, you can always add some more. Now I'm going to paint this wood piece with the black chalk paint. This is just the base of my project, so you can use any wood piece that you would like to set your word on, and I'm just using this because someone had given it to me, so it was free and it's the perfect size. But you can find something at Dollar Tree that will work, or maybe even put a couple of those wooden planks that you can get in the Crafter's Square aisle together to put your project on. Then I'm going to use some ivory chalk paint and dry brush this as well. I wanted to highlight the star a little bit, so I'm using a black Sharpie marker and I'm just drawing some stitch lines all the way around the outside edge of that star just to bring out the shape of it and highlight it a little bit more. And now I'm going to use my hot glue gun and I'm going to put some glue on the bottom of my word and glue it down to that base piece. Once that glue has set, I'm going to take my berry garland and I am going to start at the end where the P is. I'm going to wrap this around just kind of randomly, just to look like the word is kind of entwined in this garland or this vine. And so I just played with it until I liked the way it looked. And then I'm going to attach each end of the garland with a little hot glue on the back side. Next, I'm going to take this bunch of eucalyptus that I got at Walmart. I think it was about $3, and I'm only using like 2 sprigs off of it. I just pull them right off, but I'm going to be using more of this in my next projects, so it's well worth picking this up. But I decided to add the eucalyptus at the bottom of the E because my sign that I picked up did not sit flat and there was kind of a gap there, and so this was a good way to disguise it and just to add a little extra embellishment. Then I just took my black and white checked ribbon and created a little bow and put that at the base where I glued the little sprigs of eucalyptus on. The next step is totally optional, but if you wanted to, you could set one of these little LED tea lights behind the little Christmas tree, and it works perfectly just to add a little touch of light. And here's the finished project. I really like how this came out. It's very farmhouse, and I'm really pleased with it. At first, when I was trying to come up with a project to use this piece word for, I sort of felt like I was competing with myself because in a previous video I did a DIY with the Mary sign that is like this, and so many of you said that you loved that DIY. It was the best one you'd seen, the best use of that word, so I felt a little pressure, to be honest, to come up with something pretty good with this piece word, and I'm pretty happy with what I came up with. Here is that Mary sign that is in that previous video. I love how this one came out. I will put the link to this video in the description box below as well as in the card above, so you can check that out as well. If you are one of my regular subscribers, thank you so much for watching, and if you are new to my channel and you haven't yet subscribed, would love to have you stick around by hitting that subscribe button and also the bell to set your notifications so that YouTube will notify you each time I upload a new video. For this next project, I will be using this tinsel tree from Dollar Tree, and I'm actually making a set of 2, so I picked up 2 of these, and I'm going to use some nautical rope. And then I'll be using more of that eucalyptus sprig that I got from Walmart. And I'll be using 2 of these red berry garlands from Dollar Tree. I'm going to start by removing the tinsel from the tree, and this is really easy. It's just looped around a little hook on the bottom, so you just find that end and then basically just unwind it. And I'm not going to throw the tinsel away. I'm going to save that and use it for something else. Next, I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue into the end of my rope and just twist that and hold it tight. This will keep it from coming apart and fraying. So now I'm going to glue the end of my rope to the top of the tree, and I'm going to do it a little bit at an angle. And then I'm going to wind my rope around the tree, and I'm going to leave about 2 inches or so in between each row of rope. There are little plastic knobs on this little cage or frame, and I thought about cutting them off, but I'm so glad that I didn't. You want to leave them on because they really help hold everything in place as you're winding it around. And when we're all done, you won't even ever see them. So then I secured the end of the rope at the bottom, and then I'm going to start pulling off some more of these sprigs of eucalyptus, and I am going to glue these in between the rope all the way around the tree. So once all the greenery is on, this is what it should look like. And now I'm going to add that berry garland, and I'm going to start at the bottom of the tree, and I'm going to go along the bottom of the eucalyptus that we just added, and I'm going to wind all the way up the tree, and then I'm going to attach it at the top of the tree with a little bit of hot glue to hold it in place, and then I'm going to wind all the way back down the tree, this time on the top side of the eucalyptus. And then I'll just secure that with a little bit of hot glue at the base, and all the berries are on. So now I'm going to take the ivory chalk paint, and I am going to very lightly brush all over this to give it like a little bit of a frosty look. And you'll see in a little bit that I actually ended up adding little pine cones to this later, and then I had to paint those again. So if you're going to add little pine cones, do it before you paint the white paint on, and it'll save you a step. These are little miniature pine cones that I picked up at Michael's. You can find them at Dollar Tree sometimes, but any of the craft stores or maybe even Walmart would have them. And like I said before, since I added the pine cones on after I'd already put the white paint on, then I had to go back and add a little bit of white paint to each of the pine cones. But I'm really glad I went back and added the pine cones. It was just the finishing touch that this little tree needed. For the last project, I will be using this little wooden pencil holder that I found at Dollar Tree in the Crafter's Square aisle, as well as one of the Dollar Tree Christmas trees, and some of the pine garland ties. I'll also be using some of this floral foam and some of the twine from the Crafter's Square section of Dollar Tree. This twine is really great when you want something that's a little bit thinner. I really love the look of these wood containers, these pen holders that I found, and they had them in a round shape as well, but the square was perfect for this. And because the wood looks so nice, I didn't want to cover that all up, so I'm just taking a little bit of ivory chalk paint and kind of dry brushing over this and letting a lot of that wood grain show through. And this gives it almost kind of like a white birch wood look. It's really neutral and natural looking. Then I'm going to take my floral foam, and I'm just going to measure and see about how big of a piece I need to fit down inside my little box. I'm using a metal ruler to cut my foam. You can use a knife, but this was laying right there and it worked great, so that's what I used. And then I just pushed my foam down inside my box. So now I'm going to take my little Christmas tree, and I'm not going to be using the stand. I'm going to just fluff it out as much as I can, and then I will be adding some of those garland ties into the areas where it's a little bare, so that it fills it in a little bit more. Then I'm going to push my tree down inside that foam, and I didn't even glue mine in, it just stayed in fine. And I'll also add a little bit of Spanish moss to the bottom of the tree just to hide that floral foam. Then I'm going to wrap a plastic bag around my little wooden box at the base of the tree, and I'm going to take a little bit of white spray paint and shooting down from the top, just lightly spray my tree to give it a light dusting of what looks like snow. And you could use spray snow. They do sell it at Dollar Tree. It doesn't stay on as well as paint, so if you want it to stay on and not flake off, I would recommend using paint. Next, I'm going to add some twine to my little box, and you can actually do this before you put your tree in. I don't know why I didn't think of it. You know, sometimes I just get to crafting and I don't really think about the order of how it should go, so sometimes I make things harder on myself. Do any of you guys do that? Anyway, I'm just wrapping it around kind of randomly around the base, around that little box, and then I'm going to tie a bow. And you could use ribbon or anything you want. I'm really going for a very natural look, and so that's why I just wanted to use the twine on this. Now once again, my pine cones were a little bit of an afterthought, so I decided to put them on after I'd already sprayed the snow. If you know you're going to do this, put them on before you spray the paint on, and then it will save you a step again. Like I said, sometimes I cause myself more work. So after I have all the pine cones glued on, I just added a little bit of the ivory chalk paint. I didn't bother taking it out and spray painting them again. This worked just fine and it was quick and easy. Here it is all finished. I really like how natural and simple it looks, and it would be great to pair with all kinds of Christmas decor, and it would be great also to put out just for winter because it's not specifically Christmas themed. And you will notice that I bent the branches of my tree downward a little bit. This gives it a little bit more of a realistic look, so it looks more like a real pine tree than if you just leave the branches sticking straight out. Let me know in the comments which project is your favorite or if you'll be giving any of them a try. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel to grow. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love to have you stick around for lots more DIYs to come. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a blessed day.